What's going on, everybody? Today I'm going to talk about rock changes, channel banks, things of that nature here at Lake the Ozarks. This can apply to pretty much anywhere, but this is going to be specifically on Lake the Ozarks. But a lot of your highland type reservoirs that are similar to this lake are going to basically be the same thing. So what is a rock change? Well, it is exactly what it sounds like. It's just a changing of basically the size of the rock or the type of the rock. Why does that matter? Well, through different times of the year, fish seem like they want to kind of relate to a certain size of rock. And it's also going to help identify kind of your channel banks or your flatter banks and just help you put a pattern together and figure out what you need to be focusing on. So I'm going to pan around here. I'm going to show two sides of the bank. Like I just entered into a little cove here. It's nothing special, okay? So you look down this side, it's relatively steep. You look down this side, it's relatively steep. They're both about the same grade. Sometimes you can pull into a cove and, like, we'll say this side's real steep and this side's real flat. Okay, so that's super obvious that this side's going to be like the flat side and this is most likely going to be your channel side over here, if that was the case. But in this situation, it's not super obvious just by looking at the actual terrain. But there is a clue, and that is on the bank over here. And I'm doing this video now because Lake the Ozarks is down for winter pool, so you can see a whole lot better. So if you look at this bank over here, I'll troll over here so you can see a little bit better. You can tell this basically has, I would call, like softball to baseball size rock for the most part. You've got some bigger rocks mixed in here, like there's one that's partially in the water. And sometimes what it looks like all the way up there isn't exactly what it comes down to out here. So it's nice when they draw this down for your winter pool. You can kind of actually get an eyeball. Sometimes you think you know what's going on underneath there, and then you drag something around, you're like, well, that's not really what's going on. So you can see there's a couple bigger rocks mixed in. So now I'll go over to this side and I'll show you that rock. So as we get a little closer, you can probably start to see it over there. It's kind of got a little bit of the, what I call table rock style. It is just like little shelf rock almost. And then as you come over here in this open bank, we'll get a little better example, see it a little bit more. But you can see there's like these big slabs almost of flat rock. And then there's bigger rocks that are kind of broken up that are mixed in with it. So this is the channel side. So this is where your creek channel actually comes from back here, and it comes and it swings up along this bank, and it pretty much rides pretty close to this bank, and then about out here it actually cuts over out into the middle again. So if you come into a creek like this, you see this style of rock over here, you see this over here, okay, you know this is the channel side. You can just see how much steeper and kind of more aggressive it is. So that's the first thing I'm looking for when I pull into a creek or pull into like a pocket like this. You know, you got to kind of start to figure out, okay, well, which side do I want to fish? What time of the year is it? Or, okay, I'm going to fish both sides. I don't really know yet. And see if you start getting bites on one side more than the other. And then you go into the next area and you can kind of piece that together. I'll just show you here real quick on my graph. You can see that it doesn't, like, it's not mapped super great in here. You can maybe tell a little bit that it's steeper on this side, and you can tell it kind of swings away there. It's hard to tell on the screen. If you use a computer, you can zoom in a little more and you can see the lines a little bit better. But just from this, it's not extremely obvious which is which. So that's, again, why you pay attention to the rock. All right, so another thing I want to show you is, say you are entering an area like this, the water's not drawn down, or you can't see the bank really. So you want to figure out which side's the channel swing or which side's the channel bank, and maybe your mapping's not that good like this one. So you're just really not sure. Well, this is just a good way to figure that out, is just go in with your side imaging. So over here, you can see this is kind of the flatter side, and you can see it's pretty flat up here. There's not much. It does drop off just a little bit over there, but you can see the much harder channel swing where it actually butts up into this over here on this side, but over by that rock that we looked at. But you can actually see there's a bunch of fish suspended in here too, big fish. I'm not really sure what they are, but that's a good way to figure out which side's the channel bank and which side's the flat side. All right, we'll talk about bluff ends too, just give you an on the water example. I mention them a lot. Maybe some people don't know what they are exactly still, or a little confused. So this is basically just a bluff wall coming down here. Very steep. I'm in 60 feet of water here. You can see I'm not very far from the bank at all. And you can just see it's very large shelf rock. A lot of times these bluffs have like a stair step kind of comes down, you know, there's a little spot there. So bluff edges, bluff ends, just the bluff walls themselves, they'll hold fish year round. It doesn't really matter. I think a lot of fish that are on these areas basically live there year round. They don't really leave, they don't need to leave. But as you come to this little point here, you can see the rock starts to get a little bit smaller. So I'm gonna drive around this dock here and see the rock is basically gonna be like softball size, baseball size. And the reason why this is so steep here and then why it flattens off on the back is because the actual main river channel runs right along this, very close to this. So that's why this is so steep here. All right, so we're approaching the end of the bluff end. So you can see the point kind of behind it going back. Stay close to this dock here. Then, as we break this corner here, you can see the rock changes pretty drastically. It is about softball sized rock starting off. And then as you actually go down the bank a little bit, it actually gets a little bit smaller kind of as you go. And then there's actually a little pea gravel pocket down there as well. That's just a really fine rock. So there's some people fishing over here. I don't want to bother them. So that is basically just a bluff end, kind of an example of it and how the rock changes. So you can fish the actual bluff end itself, or you can fish these backsides right here, especially maybe when you are leading into spring. Okay, here's example number 2 of a rock change. So we got a channel swing that kind of comes up to that point and goes back out to the middle. And then right about here, it actually comes back into this bank. So you can see we've got pretty small rock here. It's mixed in, I say pretty fine rock. And then here you basically have almost pea gravel on this bank here. Again, very small rock. So you'll really be able to see this rock change like instantly. You'll know that's where your channel swing really comes up hard onto the bank. So it's actually right behind this dock is where it starts, and it goes from, you saw pea gravel to this. You got some busted up rock here. It's getting a little bit bigger. There's a few stragglers in there that are a little bit bigger. Come around this dock and you can see just kind of a little bit of that like slate rock almost that wants to be there. And then you got a couple of big stragglers, and there's some other stragglers out here in the water, bigger rocks that are just kind of stacked in there randomly. And then you come behind this dock again, leading into this secondary point, so like spawn pocket basically is kind of what I would call it. And you turn into basically do nothing rock again on a real flat bank. So the channel comes up to where the rock change was, and then it swings back out here, back into the creek channel before it heads further back into the cove. So that's just another good example of a rock change. Now I want to talk again about why this really matters that much. Why are you looking for that? Or how can you put this into play basically to help you catch more fish? And part of that is just the rock change themselves. If you're going down a bank, you're going into a creek, you're going into something, say you just have a big stretch of bank and you have pea gravel and then it goes to any other type of rock, just like a bigger mixed rock. On that rock change or near it, like within 25 feet or so, or 50 feet, either way, that's going to be a high percentage spot to catch fish. Just because it's a change in the bank or a change in like what's normal, it just becomes like a stopping point for fish. And figuring out what type of bank or what type of rock these fish are kind of related to can help you basically just go around the lake and find things that match up to that and then catch those fish sitting on those particular things. Because sometimes, you know, it's cold still, the water's 45 degrees. Sometimes like we catch fish on these flatter banks with a smaller rock, and then you can go to a bigger bank, bigger chunk rock and catch them. Or you can run just the bank, channel banks and stuff and find the rock changes and just fish the rock changes, and you can do pretty good. So it's not like all the fish are gonna be on just one specific thing, but what you're looking for is basically just like a high percentage error. So that's kind of up to you to figure out the time of the year, what type of rock it is, and maybe what baits you should throw on it. Sometimes it's jerk bait, sometimes it's an A-rig, could be a jig, rock crawler, you know, there's all sorts of different baits. And you just kind of figure out, you know, what those fish are in the mood for the particular day, or even like certain fish may want to kind of relate or have a certain bait on a certain style of bank. It's just, it seems like it can go day to day or week to week, or just as the season changes, you know, you're going to have to change your baits a little bit on the style of banks. As far as now, mid-March leading into spring, a good spot to look are these like spawn pockets like I'm talking about here. If you can find rock changes on this, near that, like that over there, would be a good area to start looking into as these fish are thinking about, you know, spawning. Days are starting to get longer. The clock's ticking. It's going to eventually start kind of pushing them that way. Not saying it's really any time that soon. The water temp's only 45 degrees still, but spring things start to come to life, and that kind of starts to become, I guess, the focal points. These fish are going to be feeding up, getting ready to spawn, and that's good staging areas. They have access to deeper water, they can slide out to it, and then when it is time to spawn or go further back, push in some of these pockets and stuff, that's where they can go. So that's just a good place to look now. And then post spawn's the same thing, as those fish are leaving the same areas. If you had like a rock transition or something like that that was good pre-spawn, check that on post spawn too, and then the fish are likely going to be stopping in the same spot. So some of these I showed today aren't like super obvious. If you drive around the lake and you look at some of the big creeks, big channel swings, things like that, and you go to them, you will very obviously see what I'm talking about. But I'm trying to show you some more subtle things, because anybody can just go on a map and find the most huge channel swing in a major creek and go, well, here's the rock change. But I want to try and show you just some like subtle things that do matter, that can help you put more fish in the boat. So hopefully it's helped you. Maybe it's getting you to think about something that you weren't thinking about before, or can help you put the pieces together of the puzzle to get a better bite and catch some bigger fish. So thanks for watching, guys. We'll have some more videos out for you.